Okay, so let's get you on the path here of looking at divisional playoff rounds, implications for players that you need offensively, that, of course, that you need for sleepers and rock bottom per position. I want to start at the wide receiver position, go backwards here for this morning as we try to get everything aligned and lined up. When you get a chance, though, it's very important that you look at some of this stuff here. It's got to find the right page. Oh, I went off of it. At the DFS Army, make sure you're logged in, get signed up, so you can look at the correlation spreadsheets, as well as the right here. You just come down to the NFL menu, the correlation matrix, as well as the cornerback versus wide receiver breakdown. They're not up right this moment. I wish they would get it updated a little bit faster, but they will be there in time for kickoffs. I'm sure probably by tonight these will be updated, so you can see which correlation is the best stack to give you some more data there. But anyways, going over here back to where I was, the Dallas Cowboys depth chart, as the Cowboys perhaps get well enough behind versus the Rams in this game, which I expect, they will have to utilize more receivers and try to get themselves back into the game, right? So we look at playing Cooper, of course, and Gallup as a high-risk option, but also the guy I like this week as a sleeper, especially in 4 receiver sets, as in that scenario, Noah Brown. So Noah Brown is the second-year player, I believe it is, from Ohio State, that had at least one good year for Ohio State, had some amazing catches, and he has some ability to get in the air and has some height advantage over some guys. I would like to see what the matchups are specifically. Well, you can do that anytime here as well on the Rams depth chart. So I love using this site. Let's see what we might get there. So, you know, these are very high-risk plays, obviously, not anything to be sure about, but you got to save yourself some money. Like on DraftKings, Noah Brown is $3,000. So you can look at Rams depth chart and see. I know Brown is 6'2", but the spreadsheet will have it all laid out for you heck of a lot easier. You can order it up in terms of order of, you know, who has the highest height advantage and so on, who is which cornerbacks that allow the most fantasy points to wide receivers, things like that. So here the corners, let's see, Aqib Talib, Peters, not going to be matched up on him. The slot corners, what I'm looking for here, I don't see it. They are listed, so it's going to be Sam Shields, probably on Beasley, and then you got Troy Hill or Roby Coleman. Let's see who this guy is, and see he's listed first. Yeah, a 5'10" cornerback out of Oregon. So there's a definite 4-inch height advantage there. There you go, as I see that happening. So the other one, perhaps, actually, let's go over to our main draft dashboard so we can see, whoops, go to the NFL, just see what else we can come up with as far as sleepers here. There's a sleeper list here already on the site you can look at, but I want to sort of really more go by position, like, you know, like Nelson Aguilar, really good matchup versus the worst scoring in terms of fantasy, the wide receiver position of New Orleans defense. So take a look at that. And in fact, he's a lot cheaper here on DraftKings compared to Fanduel. So you always want to look at that and compare both. So really, I want to go over to the position optimizer though, and look at some other perhaps great wide receiver matchups. As we already established, though, really from that the best is going to be the Eagles wide receivers, especially this week. You know, like Golden Tate, as he, you know, take a look at it. His last matchup. In fact, I don't know with what team it was, but versus New Orleans, 9 points. He can surpass that pretty easily here. Versus that secondary, the slot corner essentially, and we can also look at, of course, New Orleans wide receiver matchups, guys such as Ginn, Traquan Smith and Keith Kirkwood, you have to take your best estimate and get over to the wide cornerback matchups using those couple of resources there I gave you. Figure out which guys to play. Now at the running back position, like I said, I kind of want to work my way backwards and figure out, you know, that Jordan Wilkins and Hines and Mack have really excellent matchups versus the Kansas City defense. It's kind of obvious this week. Other than that, you got your New England running backs playing Rams, not so good against the running backs either. As far as sleeper is concerned, you know, if you have to drop down and pick somebody, look at Nyheim Hines, who has a good matchup there, and he can play into the role perhaps of playing from behind. Kansas City may, you know, be getting a lead. At the tight end, same thing. You want to look at Ebron as a second option to Kelsey. If you can afford to, just pay up at that position. I don't really have any recommendations, at least not as of now. Well, besides who's everybody else is on right now, the San Diego tight end. So that's the possibility, Hunter Henry. Okay, so now the quarterback position. The sleeper of the week is Nick Foles, because got to take this off, watch him for tournaments, maybe $1 entry type high player tournament, just because he has a possibility here of blowing up versus this New Orleans secondary as they brought out wide receivers, great matchups. If he can pass the ball downfield, which he will likely do, take some chances, especially once behind versus this New Orleans defense. You have yourself a good shot at a great fantasy play for the cheapest price on the slate. So that's all for today. Enjoy your lineup configuration.